You've decided you're moving to Seattle, or you're close enough to it that you're doing this type of research. And now you're looking at a list of things to figure out, and you're not sure where exactly to start. This is the order I'd do it in based on working with relocation buyers specifically and what I've watched go wrong when people get it out of order. Okay, step one, get clear on your timeline first. Before you do anything else, before you talk to a lender, before you look at a single home online, before you start comparing those neighborhoods in Seattle, nail down your actual move date. Not a season, not a quarter, a specific window. We need to be in Seattle by August 15th, for example, because school starts. I start the new job September 1st, and I need to be settled. That's a timeline. Sometime this summer is not a timeline, and it honestly will cost you. And here's why it matters. Everything else flows from your move date. When you need to start seriously looking, when you should be talking to a lender, what neighborhoods are even realistic given your price range and what's going to be available. All of it depends on the date. In Seattle, from a serious active search to closing on your home and getting keys typically runs 45 to 75 days if you're moving really quickly. It can be 90 to 120 days up to 4 months if you're more deliberate. You want to back plan from your move date and figure out exactly when you need to be in contract. Start that calculation now, not 3 months from now. And you'll thank me later because this is going to set up your search and make you feel comfortable about what you're getting into. Now, if you need to move it back a little, of course you can. And I always encourage people to keep looking if they haven't found the right thing that they want, but having that target date can really help you get a head start. Step two, talk to a lender before you fall in love with anything. I know this is not the fun part of the process, but here's what actually consistently happens when people skip it. They spend weeks, sometimes even months, touring homes in a price range that doesn't match their actual purchasing power. Or maybe it's way out of budget, more than they felt comfortable with. Then they get a pre-approval letter that recalibrates their reality, and now they're searching from a place of disappointment rather than a realistic one that could have started from the beginning. So talk to a lender first and get pre-approved, not pre-qualified. Those are meaningfully different things because a pre-qualification means you filled out an online form and someone gave you a ballpark number. But a pre-approval means a lender has actually reviewed your income documentation, your W-2s, your bank statements, and your credit, and given you a letter with real credibility. And in Seattle's market, submitting an offer without a real pre-approval letter is often a non-starter for sellers and their agents. Those sellers' agents know the difference between the two, and their clients, the sellers, do as well. So get the pre-approval. If you're in the middle of relocating right now, where are you coming from? Drop it in the comments. I work with a lot of people moving to the Seattle area, and I'm curious what's driving the move. Are you coming for the tech job? Is it family? Is it cost of living somewhere else? I'm interested in what you're actually experiencing right now, so drop it in the comments. 3, start with neighborhoods, not with the home listings. This is where most out-of-state buyers waste the most time. They open up Zillow, they find a specific house that they like, they fall in love with it, and then they discover it's in a location that doesn't actually work for their commute or their lifestyle or their budget in context of the neighborhood. And now they're emotionally anchored to something that was never right for their situation from the start. The sequence that actually does work is spend 2 or 3 weeks learning the neighborhoods before you look at a single listing online. Understand where you're commuting from and how long that's going to take from each major part of the city to wherever you'll be working. Understand the difference between what $700,000 buys you in a neighborhood like Ballard versus what it buys you in a neighborhood like Shoreline versus on the east side in Kirkland maybe. Those are very different properties at the same price point. Understand which neighborhoods have the walkability you want, the access to outdoors you want, the character you're looking for, and then after all of that, open Zillow. In that order. I've watched buyers who skip this step make 2 very distinct mistakes. They either bought in the wrong neighborhood and realized it 6 months after they got the keys, or they spent 6 months searching inefficiently because they didn't have the framework for evaluating what they were actually looking at online, and they were just jumping from neighborhood to neighborhood. Step 4, choose your agent before you start touring. A lot of people who are relocating to Seattle treat agent selection as something you figure out once you've found the home. You call whoever has the listing maybe, or you work with whoever your company's relocation program assigns. Or maybe you pick someone last minute because you're in town for a weekend and you want to go see houses. That is unfortunately very backwards. Your agent is part of your strategy in a competitive market and not just someone who coordinates the transaction or opens doors for you. The agent you choose determines how your offers are positioned, how quickly you can move when the right property comes up, and whether the listing agent on the other side of an offer takes you and your team seriously. In a market where you might have 48 hours or less to decide on a property you've never seen in person, having an agent you trust and who has done everything they can to make you familiar with that property and already briefed on your situation is not a luxury, it's something you must have. So choose your agent before your first showing, not after you've lost your third offer on a home. Number 5, visit in person before you buy, if at all possible. I work with buyers who've closed on homes in Seattle sight unseen. It does happen, especially for people who are relocating from another country or who have very limited flexibility to travel to Seattle. But if you have any ability at all to visit Seattle before you buy, I highly recommend doing it. And when you do, don't spend your entire visit touring houses. Spend it walking around these neighborhoods. Walk your potential commute route at rush hour. Walk to the bus. Walk the neighborhood on a Saturday morning and on a Tuesday afternoon, and then again on Wednesday night. They'll all feel different during different times. Find the grocery store that you'd actually use. Walk from where you're considering buying to the coffee shop you'd work from. The things that will matter most to you about where you live are not visible in just a 3D tour online or a listing video. They are the things you only know after you've been there. And so going and doing this research now is only going to help you. Here's something that doesn't make most moving to Seattle checklists, but matters a lot. Connect with the city before you commit to a specific property. Join a few Seattle specific forums or subreddits. Ask questions in those communities. Read the local news, not just the Seattle Times, but the neighborhood blogs and the subreddits that cover specific areas. The ground level knowledge that comes from people who live in a neighborhood day to day is different from what you'll get from a real estate website or even from an agent. I can tell you what the market is doing. I can tell you about physical characteristics of neighborhoods. What I can't fully replicate is the lived experience of 200 different people who have been there for 5 years. So that collective knowledge is worth definitely getting before you close. Now, one note on that is to take some of the comments lightly. It's not everything you read on the internet will be true, so there has to be a balance. What's the part of moving to Seattle that feels most unclear to you right now? Put it in the comments below. I build videos based on what people actually need to know, and your question might become the next one. If you're 90 days out, this is your roadmap. Start with your timeline and work backwards from there. If you're 30 days out, you should be pre-approved and you should have an agent identified already. If you're 3 months in and it's feeling chaotic, that's when you should reach out. This process is navigable with the right support and the right team around you. And if you're thinking about relocating to Seattle and trying to figure out where to start, I work with people moving to Seattle all the time. My contact information is below. You can schedule a meeting with me, and that first conversation will give you a clear picture of what your next 90 days should look like, all for free. The next video I'd watch is the one on this channel about the pros and cons of living in Seattle. Because if you haven't worked through that question yet, it's worth doing before you commit to any of these neighborhoods, and it's in the playlist.